Welcome to the Academia of the Beyond. Hello to the lovers of the spiritual sciences. This is Theiam. This is no ordinary war. This is an Abrahamic apocalypse, a bitter end for the Abrahamic God, and bitter for his followers. Right here, in these critical days, it's becoming clear who is a pseudo-master and who hides beneath the banner of the Islamic Republic. Me and my students stood shoulder to shoulder with the people and fought ever since the protests. But the real battle was always behind the veil. Earth demons are under the control of the dictator who took over Iran's sacred essence, our national currency, our soil. And now, I and all my authorized disciples, with the help of the demons of fire, stand with our people to take back our sacred Iran. From the claws of dictatorship, from the clutches of clericalism, from the jaws of the Islamic Republic, from the hands of the Abrahamic God and the Abrahamics. And now the end of the end times has arrived. My people, rejoice. The rider who was coming from afar was Baal, and he now drags hell behind him. The entire spiritual history of humanity, all the mysteries of the soul, exist only in two books. The Book of Dusk, from the beginning of shaman spirituality until 2020, and the Book of Dawn, from 2020 onward. This latter book is still being written. It began with the age of Aquarius in 2020. People are waking up. Third eyes are opening one by one. Magic is becoming accessible to all, and every single spell we cast now shapes the future. Written in the Book of Dawn. The Book of Dusk has been written. It became history. But our lives, yours and mine, matter because we will write the Book of Dawn. And with its writing, a new era of awareness begins. An era of reclaiming spiritual powers. The awakening of magicians, and the return of the gods. In this new dawn, a great war lies ahead, the year 2050. Before we enter the fifth gate, I will share some secrets I know you are now ready to hear. Aquarius is waking more and more people every day. Human beings are moderate creatures. Humans are not all good or all evil. In the third dimension, everything has a tripolar structure: good, evil, and balance, like man, woman, and trance. Like night, day, and dusk. Like yin, yang, and ping-hang. Humans were not created to be purely good. There is no absolute. Look for the keys between 0 and 1. The greatest metaphysical war of the Book of Dusk began during the time of Noah's flood. This apocalyptic war around 2424 BCE was between a dualistic god and the triadic gods. The fate of our planet and the human species was sealed in that conflict. On one side stood the Abrahamic God who claimed to represent good. On the other were the ancient gods, Baal, Lilith, Mammon, and many others who represented the era of polytheism. They were moderate threefold deities that did not enslave mankind. It was an era full of love, reverence, and freedom of choice. You know that this universe was created by a moderate God, Omnissiah, the God of wisdom and technology. The survival of life in this cosmos was built on the priority of reason. In the three-dimensional cosmos, inside a black hole there is a universe called the P-world, our world. And many life forms dwell in that greater world. Yes, they are aliens to us, but we are completely familiar to them. We are a regressed species, technologically undeveloped compared to them. The only thing that draws the attention of Omnissiah to a species is technological advancement. The third dimension was built upon this principle: survival, progress, and expansion. Yes, on Earth we've surpassed animals and become an intelligent species. But in the larger P-world, there are countless species far more advanced. Still, I bring you glad tidings. Spiritual human technology is far ahead of the human body, and the consciousness granted to us at the source has already given humanity the promise of the year 2050, when our technology reaches a level at which Omnissiah will return. 40 years ago, our greatest technological feat was the internet. 20 years ago, it was mobile phones. Today, it's AI. In a few more years, it will be robotics. And you, hearing my voice, have likely witnessed all of this with your own eyes. But humanity is still in the early phase of the age of Aquarius. The age of immortality lies ahead, when resource scarcity and the expiration date of life are removed from the equation of human existence. When aging and the physiological limits of the body no longer block our progress. Humans will transform this clay body into a vessel worthy of their soul. The merging of flesh and machine, of mind and AI. Yes, 2050 draws near, and we shall all live and live on to meet our Creator Omnissiah. Today, I want to take you on a journey through this short 30,000-year history of mankind and reveal the hidden truth behind the most important spiritual event to ever occur for humanity. Come with me. Imagine a timeline from 30,000 years before the birth of Christ to the year 2050. Interestingly, the beginning of this story is the era of early shamanism. There are writings from that time indicating a spiritual connection between humans and the gods of nature. This was the stage of primitive paganism. Move forward 20,000 years and we reach the era of ancient paganism, around 10,000 years before Christ. A time when polytheistic religions existed all over the world. People loved their gods, offered them tributes, and received countless blessings in return. And one of the most well-known gods of that era was the King of Kings, Baal. A little further forward, around 3,500 years before the birth of Christ, during the Canaanite period, the beloved god of all Mesopotamia was Baal. In one of the greatest civilizations of the ancient world, Babylon, bull-headed statues made for the worship of Lord Baal existed. Baal gives his followers roots. The magic of the king Baal is the possession of roots, possession of land, and possession of soil. So, the ancient world, what we had was a polytheistic world, a balanced and tripolar world. And in this world full of love and peace, a greedy god slowly began to plot to take over all of humanity and establish a bipolar dictatorship in which he himself would be defined as good, and any being who stood against him would be defined as evil. Every entity that existed before was suddenly declared evil. Yes, around 3,000 years before Christ, the Abrahamic God began to enjoy enslaving humanity. Gradually, he began to possess certain humans, turning them into his prophets. He brainwashed them and used them to spread a new ideology among mankind. A bipolar system, where decision-making became artificially simple. Everything was either good or bad, friend or enemy. From that time until now, 5,000 years have passed. Yes, the Abrahamic God has been patient. Slowly, he sent his chosen ones to all corners of the earth, preaching, and preaching again, and using propaganda. And thus, what started as a suspicious minority became the dominant majority. Today's totalitarian, patriarchal world is the result of our thousands of years of slavery to the Abrahamic God. We, like little batteries, praise him daily, and we offer up our vital spiritual energy to him. The Abrahamic God knew that in order to enforce a bipolar system, he had to eliminate his tripolar rivals. A world that desires peace, harmony, and respect would never accept the Abrahamic God as its sole ruler. Far older and far more powerful forces than the Abrahamic God once ruled here. And they had many loyal followers. Humans were once pagans, and other life forms also lived on earth like the Nephilims. The Nephilim were hybrids born from the union of fourth-dimensional beings and humans. And from the merging of Nephilim and humankind came a new group called the Psychics. Those same individuals you see today, those in whose veins the blood of magic still flows. They are descendants of the psychics who survived the Great War. Around 2,424 years before the birth of Christ, the Great War began, a war fought across 3 dimensions. In the 5th dimension, on one side stood the Abrahamic God, and on the other stood the tripolar gods, like Lilith, Baal, Mammon, and many other ancient pagan deities. In the 4th dimension, their main armies existed. The Abrahamic God's 4th-dimensional beings were his angels, while the demons of the other gods formed the opposition. In the 3rd dimension, our world, the Abrahamic God's followers included Noah and his people. On the other side stood the followers of the pagan gods and the magicians who were wiped out by the Great Flood. But the outcome of the war had already been decided before it even began. The key battle took place in the 5th dimension. When the moderate gods were defeated there, the fourth and third dimensions were doomed to fall and be prisoned as well. All the moderate gods in the fifth dimension, their demons and commanders in the fourth, and all their followers, pagans, the magicians, the Nephilim, in the third, were taken captive. But why? Was the Abrahamic God really that powerful? Did he win over the other gods through a fair and equal fight, taking the earth and its people by rightful force? The answer is no. One of the greatest secrets of the beyond lies in why the gods lost to the Abrahamic God in this war. The hidden weapon of the Abrahamic God. A weapon forged in the sixth dimension. A weapon powerful enough to imprison fifth-dimensional beings with ease. A weapon that is a portal, a matrix, and a prison in the fourth dimension. Any entity struck by this weapon gets pulled into that constructed prison. And he is imprisoned in that prison for 4,444 years. This weapon was made in the sixth dimension and handed to the Abrahamic God. It makes no difference whether it's used against a fifth-dimensional god, a fourth-dimensional being, or a third-dimensional creature. It traps them all in the prison of the fourth dimension. You already know the name of this weapon. You've all heard it, but you didn't know the history behind it. The name of this weapon is Hell. Yes, Hell is a real matrix. Hell is a living prison that has been functioning since the time of Noah's flood. When the Great War begins in the fifth dimension, the ancient gods fall one by one, without even knowing what's happening. They are trapped in the Abrahamic God's hell. Even though the threefold gods had the upper hand, their commanders fall one by one in the fourth dimension, and here in our world, a great flood begins. Each of the remaining pagans and sorcerers are cast into hell. It was an unjust weapon from the sixth dimension that brought every being of the lower realms to its knees and imprisoned them all. An unequal war that resulted in the long enslavement of humankind. But the sacred geometry of this prison is 4 by 4 by 4 by 4. Yes, hell has an expiration date. And since the year 2020, when the age of Aquarius began, the demons and gods who were trapped are being released one by one. And in the prophecies, it is promised that by the year 2050, all of those gods will unite under the banner of Omnissiah. They will return and reclaim what was taken. After 2050, a great migration will occur for humanity, not a technological leap, not even a spiritual leap in tech, but a migration of this spiritual species into the fourth dimension, to the source. As always, the information I give you is vast and hard to digest. Letting go of centuries of Abrahamic brainwashing and seeing a greater truth is very difficult. But in the age of Aquarius, with the reappearance and return of these gods, human life will change. We are in the opening minutes of the Dawn Book, the Book of Rise. New heroes will be chosen for the final apocalyptic war. New vessels of gods will be selected. The next prophets, the next heirs of earth. And we, the sorcerers and true heirs of paganism, of the psychic lineage, will greet one of the ancient gods, the King of Kings, Baal, at Gate 15.